A few years ago, Tanya and I were delivering a workshop in Washington, D.C. at a conference arranged by a government agency that works globally with the country directors for all of the different African countries during a period of major organizational change. Budgets were tightening, operational pressure was increasing, teams were fatigued, and the leadership group was trying to navigate uncertainty whilst continuing to deliver critical services. So once we had completed our work, we had informal conversations with these leaders. At one point in one of these conversations, the leader paused and said something I've never forgotten. She said, "I totally got it. We spend so much time talking about what's broken that people are starting to forget what's strong." And I remember thinking, fantastic. This is one of the most important leadership insights, because when organizations enter periods of disruption, transformation, or sustained uncertainty, something very predictable happens. Leadership conversations become dominated by risk, gaps, pressure, and operational challenges. And those conversations matter. Strong institutions absolutely need accountability, operational discipline, and rigorous problem solving. But there is another question leaders sometimes stop asking during periods of change. What is already working? And how do we build from there? That question sits at the heart of what we do at Spaciousness Works. Most leadership systems are appropriately designed to identify problems. That is true in government, it's true in corporations, healthcare, education, etc. Virtually every complex institution we order, measure, evaluate, improve, and we should. But research in organizational development consistently shows that institutions also need the ability to identify strengths, capability, and adaptive capacity. Because when organizations become psychologically organized around deficit alone, people can begin to lose connection to purpose, contribution, and possibility. Energy declines, collaboration weakens, innovation slows, and people become more cautious than creative. Eventually, organizations stop seeing what is possible. Not because capability disappeared, but because attention narrowed. There is a well-known principle in appreciative inquiry. Organizations move in the direction of the questions they ask. Think about that for a moment. The questions leaders ask shape what people notice, what people discuss, what people prioritize, and ultimately what they believe is possible together. Appreciative inquiry began with a deceptively simple idea. Instead of asking only what is broken, leaders also ask, when are we at our best? Not as denial, not as optimism without realism, and not as a replacement for accountability or operational discipline, but as a disciplined leadership practice grounded in strength-based organizational development. This is where strengths mapping becomes especially powerful. Strength mapping helps leaders identify trusted relationships, high-functioning teams, resilient practices, effective collaboration, innovation under pressure, and moments where people remain strongly connected to mission and service. Because even in highly strained systems, there are almost always pockets of excellence. Those pockets matter. They are not exceptions to dismiss. They are signals about the conditions that allow people and institutions to perform at their best. We are living through a period of extraordinary complexity. Public expectations are increasing, technology is changing rapidly, workforces are evolving, and leaders across sectors are being asked to adapt continuously. At the same time, many people are carrying sustained levels of fatigue and uncertainty. And when uncertainty increases, organizations can unintentionally become shaped by urgency, pressure, and reaction. Communication narrows, collaboration weakens, trust becomes harder to maintain. This is why emotional climate matters in leadership. Every leader creates one. Some environments increase fear and defensiveness. Others create conditions where people continue to feel capable, valued, and connected to purpose, even during uncertainty. That is one of the most important contributions of strength-based leadership, not because it ignores challenges, but because it helps institutions build from capacity and shared purpose rather than reaction alone. And that matters enormously in public service, because resilient institutions are ultimately built by engaged people. The leaders who navigate change most effectively are really the people with all the answers. They're often the people who help others see possibility before certainty exists. And that helps teams remember what works, what matters, what is worth strengthening, and what future may still be possible together. That matters in government, but it also matters in healthcare systems, universities, non-profits, and corporations, because people do not become resilient simply because they are instructed to be resilient. People become more adaptable when they feel trusted, they feel included, they feel connected to meaningful contribution, and they believe their capabilities still matter. That is what appreciative inquiry helps unlock. Not toxic positivity, not avoidance, but the disciplined practice of building from strength while still engaging reality honestly. So, perhaps the real leadership question during times of change is not simply how do we fix what is wrong? Maybe the deeper question is how do we strengthen what helps people, teams, and institutions perform at their best, especially under pressure? Because organizations are never transformed only through strategy. They are transformed through attention, through relationships, through shared belief, and through leaders willing to ask better questions. So for more conversations and practical tools to support your leadership team to champion change, like and subscribe using the link below.